Are we back?
Yeah.
And we're back.
We're back.
We're just going to start right here. This is Nerds Without Pants, E3 Special Part 2. I am your host, Julian, and I'm joined, as always, by Patrick.
That's me.
And not joined by Angelo tonight, but we are joined by our very own Rockstar, which means that we won't be talking about anything Rockstar related for, because I'm sure you're NDA'd to crap, but we have our very own JD.
Hey, what's up? And we could at least talk about Grand Theft Auto on PS4 and stuff now, at least.
I don't think you want me to do that because you probably want to impress the people that you're working with.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest,
I love it.
Not much to say. I mean, you know as much as I know now in the public, so.
Well, no, I just meant in terms of, like, you don't want me to start ranting about Grand Theft Auto 5 if your coworkers start to listen to this show.
I mean, to be honest, like, it doesn't matter. We don't need to talk about GTA 5.
But I wanted to say, because I haven't had a chance to really talk to you since it happened, but congratulations on the internship, because that's really friggin' awesome.
Yes, thank you very much. It's kind of crazy, but I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, we're envious and hope it'll turn into something else, something better for you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the goal, I guess, right?
Yeah. So, we are here to talk about some more E3. I guess before we get into, because I think the focus here is probably going to be Nintendo and maybe a little more third-party stuff, but before we do that, JD, I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the first special, but regardless, I just wanted, a real quick rundown of what you thought of the first day of press conferences, what stood out to you, what disappointed you, your general thoughts, and then we'll move from there.
Right. So, I'll do it kind of quick. So, with Microsoft, I liked that there were no BS. They showed a lot of games, and I liked looking at, games. They got the scoop on of a lot of reveals, and I was surprised that they had Assassin's Creed at their conference as opposed to Sony, because Sony usually has Assassin's Creed. But, they had the reveal for Tomb Raider. They had a couple of other big reveals, Crackdown, a lot of people have been looking for. Sunset Overdrive looks really crazy. That was probably my favorite game that they showed, just because it looks like a game I would have a lot of fun with. The Halo collection we already knew about, but, it's still kind of cool to actually see it manifest. But overall, I like their approach. They kind of just stuck to their guns, and they showed, some good, solid stuff. But I wasn't blown away by anything they showed at all. I didn't really care. I just, I was happy to see Tomb Raider, but that's going to be on both systems, and I was happy to see a few other games. But, most of their big games are on multiple platforms. For Ubisoft and EA, nothing came out of those that I was really crazy about, except for that little Mass Effect teaser, which I'm really, obviously you and I both know how much we like Mass Effect, so I'm just anxious to see that manifest into a full game, and it's gonna look amazing just based on that concept video. And I kind of wish I was a Dragon Age fan because it looks really good, but I just haven't started it yet, so maybe I'll start with this one, I don't know.
It sounds like this one would be a good place to jump onto because, unlike Mass Effect where they had a plan from the get-go to do, a trilogy where everything carries through, Dragon Age Origins was this, old school style BioWare game, and then Dragon Age 2 was so different, and then you didn't really even need, Dragon Age 1 to go into it, and then obviously with Dragon Age 3, they are doing a way to where you can actually, import your decisions and stuff. They're going to be setting up this website where you can basically, create a save file for it. But, otherwise, it does definitely seem like a good jumping on point for everybody. So, I think it would be, and like we said last night, there's not a lot coming out this year. So,
so I might as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's no Witcher 3 and the Order's not coming out this year. And so if you're, I know you have a PS4 now, so that's going to be probably one of the nice, flagship games to get, because that's not going to be on 360 or PS3, so it should show off the console quite nicely.
Yeah, so, same thing as you, JD, because I was also, thinking to myself that it looked really nice, but I haven't played any at all. Might just stick with Final Fantasy, though, as far as RPGs go. What I did want to say, though, is I looked at some gameplay for Sunset Overdrive, like, between yesterday and today when we did our special, and man, Julian, I think you'd be impressed with the moment-to-moment gameplay because he's, like, grinding on rails of a roller coaster and, like, jumping everywhere, and there's, like, explosions happening all sorts of places, and guys flying in crazy, like, ragdoll physics directions, and it's so hectic and maturely Ratchet and Clank. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. But I forgot to mention that Dead Rising DLC looks insane. That trailer made me laugh.
I haven't looked at it yet, but I did love the naming.
Yes,
of
that too.
The fact that Capcom is like, up on it enough to troll themselves is pretty cool. It gives me hope that there's still a little bit of spark left in that company because they sure do seem to be like dropping the ball in the last like year and a half or so.
Yeah. But EA's had those two games I was interested in. I didn't really care much about the sports stuff besides how pretty they looked. Ubisoft I didn't get a chance to see, but there was no Beyond Good and Evil, so I didn't really care.
No Prince of Persia.
No Prince of Persia, sad face. Like, what I will say is Assassin's Creed Unity looks amazing though. Like, it really does, and I like how it has 4-player co-op. I also like how Far Cry 4 has co-op without need for multiple discs on PS4. It kind of has a download play type of thing where you send an invite to a player and only one person needs to own it, so you can own the game and all of us could play together co-op, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, we were talking about that last night and how like they just kind of like casually just dropped that, like, but I think that could be the future. I mean, Hopefully they start doing this more often because there are definitely like games where I wouldn't mind playing with a friend, but it's not something that like I'm going to go out and buy because I'm not a multiplayer guy. But if they do stuff like that, like Evolve, that would be like the perfect thing.
Man,
because
that game looks really good too.
Yeah, and like I don't see myself buying it because it's like multiplayer only. But if you bought it and you're like, hey, like you got to try it, and you can play with me, you just need to download the client. I'd do it.
It would be like download play where you'd have limited access to it. Like when you do download play for Mario Kart on 3DS, you can only use Shy Guy, you can only use the basic cart, but you can still play.
Right.
So in that they would give you like the basic class, basic loadout, and that's it. But you can still play and you can have fun,
Yeah, and then maybe that would be enough where it's like, oh, I'm actually having a really good time with this. Let me go ahead and go out and buy the disc.
Right.
Evolve was like the one game I really wanted to talk about that we didn't really get the chance to talk about yesterday because going into the E3, I was like the highest on that game that I wanted to see because I really like Guillermo del Toro, and I don't know, I was pretty impressed with the monster that they showed, like running around inside caves and stuff. It looked a lot different than Left 4 Dead, like more so than I thought it would.
I actually still need to look at it. I have not seen like trailer 1 for it yet. I've just heard about it, and what I've heard sounds really amazing. I just haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Yeah,
it's really crazy, and just the possibilities are really cool because if they can get some partnerships, like there might be some interesting monsters, like how Call of Duty has their Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. Like I think the Giant Bombcast was talking about having like Godzilla in there or like that. Like that would be crazy if they could manage to get a partnership with Legendary and have Godzilla in there. I'd be freaking out. Like even he would start out as like Gadzuki or something and then grow up. Like that would be I would pay so much money for that for no reason. But Ubisoft was kind of like, Assassin's Creed looks good, I'll play that. But then Sony came out and Sony's press conference was really good. I thought it was paced well until the middle, and then the middle kind of dragged it down a little bit because Powers does look interesting and I'm probably gonna watch it, but I felt like they spent a little bit too much time talking media, like with, the YouTube stuff and the streaming stuff and the Power stuff. And, it dragged on a little bit longer than I would like to because I would have liked to see more games. And then most of the games that they did announce got pushed back into 2015. Even though, Batman looks incredible and The Order looks interesting, I'm hearing mixed things, but I'm still curious about it. But I was really happy to see Uncharted 4 because Uncharted, first off, Nathan Drake looks more like Nathan Fillion than he did before. And that's kind of crazy, but, I was still geeking out because like the whole time I'm like, he looks like a real guy. Like he looked like a real guy. Like he didn't look like a video game character anymore. He looked like a person. And then on top of that, I like the narrative that they were going with for that trailer really struck a chord with me because I feel like it's the perfect tone for that final game because like I thought, I kind of felt like, okay, if they were going to end it with 3, then they ended on a very like uplifting kind of note, but when they did announce they were going to be a 4, I was like, well, if they're going to do 4, they're going to have to, kind of end it here. And from what I could tell, like, it looks like they're really going for like a very, like, this is my last ditch effort type of, one final ride thing. And, knowing, Druckmann and stuff, I think they could pull that off.
It would be cool because I got, like I said in last night's episode, I was only half paying attention to the press conference because I was at our regular game night and we were playing Pathfinder, so I only had like one earbud in. But I kind of got the impression that it was almost like a I can't believe I'm doing this again type of like vibe from it. And I think it'd be really cool if they went for more of like a Harrison Ford in any of the movies in the last like 10 years where he's just phoning it in, where like Nathan Drake is just like, oh man, I gotta do this shit again. Like, I don't know. Like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I running from this train? I don't like this anymore. Like, if that was his like internal monologue for the game, I'd be like so sold.
Yeah, like I could totally see them going that route in a way, but the vibe I got from it at least was it seemed like something happened and he got pulled back into it unwillingly, and it's more of like a, this is the life that I led, and it's coming back to haunt me now where I don't want to be doing it. Cause like, if you look at the trailer, he's, he has the ring on, so he's married to, Elena. So I'm assuming that something happened to her, like she got captured or something. And, another thing I noticed is just by the location. It looks like it's a coming full circle type of story because the environment really reminded me of the Uncharted 1 environment. So I was thinking it would be really sick if it was the same island as Uncharted 1. Like, you go back there for something, but I don't know. Like, I'm very, I'm excited for it. I liked all the Uncharted games, so
purpose the island or something like that. Part of the game, I do want to get another new locale or something like that. I want to see the limits of it. I think it will be out of there.
Somebody running a vacuum cleaner?
No.
There's like a whooshing sound. Am I the only one who hears that?
No, I hear it.
Okay, now it's gone. Okay.
I don't.
Sorry, what were you saying, Patrick?
I don't remember.
Oh, damn. Sorry, that was really weird.
What was I saying?
You were talking about, we were still talking about Uncharted.
Oh, yeah. But I'd like them to do it sort of like Ratchet and Clank, where they take the island from the first game or something, or parts of it, and put it in like maybe the last part of the game, but start off somewhere else and not know that that's where it's going to lead. Like there's like a treasure hunt and you have to go multiple places or something.
Sort of like that really awesome part in Metal Gear Solid 4 where you go back to Shadow Moses.
Yeah.
Really love. That's one of my favorite scenes.
So I don't know. I hope they go that route though. Like that would be kind of cool. Like especially since I know that they think that we're like, okay, this is like Uncharted 4 didn't really need to happen, but if they can kind of justify it with this, okay, we started here and you went all these places, now you're gonna go back to where it starts, you're gonna finish it where it began, and I'd like that kind of makes sense to me.
What did you think of No Man's Sky? Because I know.
Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about that. Yeah, that game looks so great. Like I don't know if they're going to be able to capitalize on that, but if they can, then it's easily one of the games that I'm the most excited for from Sony's conference, just because like I just love the idea of being like you start on your own planet, and I think you get to name the planet and the creatures that you find, and then you can go and explore other planets and see what other people found, and like just pretty much do whatever you want. That sounds really interesting to me. And it just looks great too. I don't know, like as long as they can capitalize on that promise of everything being procedurally generated and, having just an infinite amount to look for, which sounds ridiculous. But if they can capitalize on at least some of that vision, I think that they'll be, they definitely have my interest.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about it that just didn't wow me, at all. I watched it and I was like, yeah, okay, this feels very Minecrafty to me, and Minecraft didn't hold, I wasn't interested enough to even try it, so, yeah, I don't know, but when he came out and started talking about it before they showed the game, he said all the right things, because he mentioned, Heinlein and Asimov and Clarke, and I was like, okay, those are science fiction art writers that I really love and respect, so if that's where you're going from this, then I should probably take some interest in it.
Yeah, I'm with you, JD. I'm really excited on it. It was actually the point where I told Julian I thought they won, because it's it's timed exclusive at least. I thought when they said console debut at first it was just gonna be there and on the PC, but probably not. The only thing is, I was thinking it's more like Star Citizen, except the arcadey version of it. So I'm really excited to be able to, I don't know, hopefully craft my own things on my own planets and invite people there, and it's just going to be never ending since it's limitless.
Yeah. I guess I have to see what that game is. If it's only exploration and, building things and stuff like that, I'm not really into it. But if they can somehow put some sort of gameplay hook in there where there's actual stuff to do.
Well, there's this one part where, there's just this one part where you had a group of TIE fighters basically, and you were going in different places, but they were shooting at something else, and I'm thinking to myself, you're probably gonna be able to take over other people's lands, and they'll be able to take over yours in certain environments, maybe, not all environments, I'm not sure, maybe you'll have to turn it on or off, or however they'll work that, but that's at least a strong possibility that you could be working with friends to colonize other places.
Yeah, and maybe if it's anything goes like Rust is, where it's you have all this emergent gameplay because people are just trying to do Star Trek style peace treaties and then circumventing said peace treaties. That could be interesting, but I don't know. I'm just such an antisocial gamer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, it looks like there's going to be a lot of shooting gameplay. I saw on land once part a small section of a video where someone was shooting a laser. So I don't know if that laser had to do with building anything or destroying anything, but there's going to be some kind of gunplay. And then, Patrick said, in space, there's going to be space battles. So all that kind of stuff, seems more, but it seems like there's going to be more to do than in a Minecraft type of game, which, to be honest, I'm not a big Minecraft guy. I respect it, but I don't play it. But this, I guess the premise of this interests me more, because it seems like there's a premise to it, and plus the whole space thing gets, I enjoy, so, we'll see how it develops.
Definitely. Any big disappointments from that first day?
For me, I was disappointed, like I said, there was no Beyond Good and Evil 2, there was no Last Guardian, so we still don't know if that's alive or not, so I kind of don't care anymore. There is no Prince of Persia, like you said, there's no, Microsoft, I felt like they didn't really sell me on Xbox One, really. They showed some interesting stuff, but there was nothing that made me say, okay, I want to speed up my plan to get an Xbox One. It's I'm still comfortable waiting another year or two. PlayStation 4, like I said, I'm disappointed most of the games got delayed. Other than, Destiny and a couple other games, I don't really know what I'm looking forward to for PS4. So, to be honest, we'll get to this later, but I'm way more excited about my, Wii U right now than my PS4, It's kind of weird.
Well, and I should just probably go ahead and say, because I know a lot of people get flack for this, but the people that criticize Nintendo as I do, but I will say that it's not as dire a situation as the first year of the Wii U, but I am fairly surprised at the, trickle of software for the Xbox One and the PS4, in this first year after launch, and the fact that so much has been delayed, it is kind of oh, I guess I totally could have waited a year to buy this thing. And I mean, I knew that was going to be the case, but I wasn't quite prepared for there to be so little coming out, and then to have so many of the things I'm looking forward to, you know, getting delayed into next year. So I do have to say that, like, you know, a lot of people complain, myself included, that, like, you know, the Wii U that first year was just kind of, like, dreadful as far as releases went. But I'd say it's pretty dreadful for PS4 and Xbox One as well. The only difference being that at least we have an idea of what's on the horizon for the PS4 and Xbox One, where this time into the Wii U's life cycle, we just didn't know what there was because Nintendo hadn't told us.
Yeah, plus, you know, Xbox One and PS4 have the advantage of having the third parties. So, you know, it's while it sounds like there's not going to be any games, there's still going to be plenty of games because, you know, there's your sports games that'll come out, and then there's your Assassin's Creeds and your Call of Duties, which are going to be better on those systems, and then you have your, you know, like for me, like, you know, WWE is going to be good, and those are like games that are kind of givens that Nintendo just doesn't happen to have at all because, you know, because they're Nintendo.
Right.
Well,
you know,
they're good
so like they have the advantage of having the third parties subtly carry them, and, you know, Assassin's is probably going to sell a lot, and, you know, they're going to have their battlefields and whatever. It'll carry them through until February when games start coming out.
Well, now Nintendo have this new Call of Duty killer. At least that's what Reggie is hoping for with Splatoon.
I don't care if it's a Call of Duty killer, but I'd rather play that than Call of Duty. But we'll talk about Splatoon later.
Yeah, I guess let's go ahead and move into Nintendo, because obviously that was the next big thing for E3 with Nintendo's digital event, as they're calling it. And I guess, you know, just right off the bat, like, I'd kind of, you know, I wanted to say, like, when Nintendo tries to be funny, it can go one of two ways. Like, a lot of times, I just kind of want to hang myself, like, you know, like the Wii U debut where they had the really annoying hipster with, that dumb superhero figure that he was talking to. Like, that entire thing I thought was, like,
so about that.
I haven't. I thought it was so tone deaf and, like, spoke volumes about where Nintendo's collective head was at. You know, but then when they succeed really well. And I gotta say, like, the Robot Chicken stuff for this presentation was really good. The Dragon Ball Z style battle between Reggie and Iwata was amazing. They listened to my podcast and they didn't have Iwata speak in English, so that made it a lot better. Like, everybody was speaking in Japanese with subtitles, and it's like, yes, this is what you need to do. It makes everything so much more succinct and just flow so much better, and I was really happy about that. And, they started off with some good, I mean, they had some good stuff throughout this entire thing, and I gotta say, like, it was really cool to see a mixture of stuff that we were banking on because it's Nintendo, and then other things where it's like, oh, this is something that I didn't even know you were working on, and it's coming out this year. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I guess we should probably lead off with, like, you know, what they showed on Smash Brothers, which, JD, I know you're a big fighting game fan. Like, what did you think about the Mii characters in the Smash Brothers game?
Yeah, so, the Mii characters I kind of expected because, for those who don't know, there's been a leak going on for the past, you know, I'd say since maybe January, maybe even before that's had specific characters listed, and up until now, this whole list has been correct, and it still is. I think the leaker is currently 6 for 6 right now, so he's predicted characters like the Mii, like Rosalina, there's a couple others I can't think of off the top of my head right now, but he's predicted quite a few characters, and
Little Mac.
Little Mac. So if that list is to be true, then we can expect Shulk from Xenoblade Chronicles, the Rhythm Heaven team, like it's like the 3 characters from Rhythm Heaven, like as one character or something, and there's one more on that list that I can't quite remember. I wanted to say Bayonetta, but I don't want to say for sure because it's probably not. That could be a different rumor. But regardless, that leaker has been pretty accurate so far. So seeing the Mii in there is interesting. I like how you can have 3 different fighting styles for the Mii. Will the Mii be competitive like in a tournament space? Probably not, but already started making Miis of characters that I wish were in Smash Brothers. Like, I made a Mii based off of Yuri Lowell from Tales of Vesperia, and I'm probably gonna make one based off of Jude from Tales of Exilia, just for fun and shits and giggles. But, I have other characters that I'd rather use in Smash Brothers personally, but it's cool to see them.
Yeah, I'm wondering how that's gonna shake down, because, like, when Soul Calibur 4 introduced the creative character mode, I just stopped using Soul Calibur characters.
Yeah.
But this doesn't seem, nearly as robust. So I'm wondering how, like, the audience is gonna, like, respond to it, as far as, like, are they just gonna stop using, like, Mario and Marth and stuff like that?
No, not at all. To be honest, I think that, when it comes to for fun, I think everybody's just gonna use whatever. But I think in tournaments, most likely, the Mii will either be banned or they'll be default Miis. But that said, I can't really see anyone, maining a Mii just because, like most people go for favorites and like people like to use Miis, but it's like when I'm playing Mario Kart, like even though I'm just driving, I'd rather use like Daisy or Rosalina than my own character. I don't know.
Plus, there's the whole amiibo thing, and all of the characters are going to be able to be leveled up, which also might have to be turned off in tournaments. I'm not sure how that's
I don't even. Yeah. Sorry, I was just gonna say I don't think that's gonna be allowed in tournaments at all. But that said, those figurines look awesome, and I want a few of them.
So I've got to say, if 2 years ago Nintendo had unveiled this machine and said it was a Nintendo Amiibo, I still would have made fun of the name because it's effing stupid. But I think if they had debuted it with that name and this technology and those figures, we would be talking about a much different system 2 years, in the present day than we are now. Because I think it would have been phenomenally huge. Like, I think there's so much problem and so much confusion for, your average consumer when the Wii U came out because they didn't know what it was. But if it had been this, with that name, like, I think they'd be in a much different position. I think they'd be, rolling in it right now. And I don't know, like, it's an inspired idea. I think they should have called it Amigo instead of Amiibo, because that plays better in the West. But,
right.
Yeah, I know they mentioned, they talked about this technology, like, when the system debuted, but the fact that they waited this long to do stuff with it, like, I think kind of hurt them in the long run. But we're probably going to see them build a lot of steam here in the next year or so.
Right. Those Amiibos are going to be heavily marketed, and then all of a sudden, all the kids are going to want it for this holiday season, and not even think about the other two.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be that next, like, big Nintendo toy. It was like back in my retail days, like, especially like the first 4 years that I worked at Game Fellas, even though the PlayStation was a more popular system, like, throughout the year, it was always a Nintendo 64 game or a Game Boy game at Christmas that was the hard thing to find. Because there was something about, they would release something around the holidays that every kid had to have. And I could totally see Amiibo being that this year.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of wish the figures were articulated, though.
Yeah. But, I do want to say that, like, one interesting thing about this whole Amiibo thing is that, I don't think how many people notice this, but they said it also has compatibility with stuff like Disney Infinity and Skylanders, which will definitely give it a retail edge, especially, little kids will, tell their parents, and the parents are going to think that, they don't really have to go out and keep buying, those, what are they, the portals or whatever for those games.
Right.
Like, it'll just kind of add to that value. And, like we said before, the holiday's looking a little slim, so this could be that little edge that they need to, and then probably not get in the lead, but at least get back into shape.
Yeah, because, they're not trying to compete with Sony or Microsoft anyway, but even so, like, Nintendo's numbers have not been nearly what I think they were hoping it would have been for the Wii U at this point, so this could hopefully be that thing that turns the tide. And, they've also got, like, some really interesting software on the way. Patrick, it was kind of funny because before we started recording, you're like, well, I've seen pretty much everything that Nintendo did except for, like, the Yoshi game, but I've already seen a game just like that, so I don't need to watch the trailer because I've played Kirby's Epic Yarn, and I was like, no, you need to watch that trailer.
Yeah.
And
it was really good. It was charming, and there was co-op play, which I was really happy to see. The Yoshis could turn into a bunch of different things. Their legs could turn into like segways, and that was hilarious when you saw that at the end and they jumped through the hoop. But I have played Kirby's Epic Yarn, and that's pretty much what it looked like. There was a little bit more detail here and there, but besides that, it's more about throwing the eggs. And I've also done that, and Yoshi's Island DS and stuff like that. And Yoshi's games are always fun games. I'm sure I'll play it. I'm just it's charming and cute, and I'm sure I'll like it. I'm not as high on it as you, though.
Well, I'm torn about it because on one hand, I love the aesthetic, and there's still this whole thing for me where it's like, ooh, it's a Nintendo-made game in HD.
Yeah.
Like that's still a big thing for me because they're so far behind the times, and they kind of have been since 1996. So that's still kind of like a thing for me. But on the other hand, it's like, well, but it's a side-scrolling platformer, and like they do a lot of side-scrolling platformers, and even on top of that, I've played so many side-scrolling platformers because I've been around since they began. So on that part, I'm like, well, okay, like I almost feel like this could be a 3DS game, but it looks gorgeous. It's one of those things where it doesn't make me like want to buy a Wii U, but if I owned a Wii U, like that'd be one on my list.
I'm a little cautious because both Yoshi series and the Epic Yarn game were very easy, so I'm like, if I play that, I might not have that much fun because it might not be like a challenge.
Yeah, and because they go like one of two ways with those, right? Like it's either like a total cakewalk, or they just try to make it like the hard as nails game that they can. You never know what you're gonna get, but it looks really good to me. But I think the one that stood out to me more, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it, is the Toad's Treasure Tracker.
Yo, okay. Toad's Treasure Tracker looks really interesting. Like, the one problem I have with it, I'll start off with the negative because I feel like there's more positive than negative. I think this is going to be a retail release, but I think it would be better suited as a downloadable. That's just a small personal gripe, though.
The level is small.
Yeah, they do. But the thing is, I watched the gameplay demo of it yesterday during the Treehouse live stream, which is a pretty good strategy on their part, by the way. But I don't know if you played Mario 3D World, but those Toad levels in that game were some of the more interesting parts of it, just because of how it broke up the gameplay and how it had that little puzzle element. But seeing them actually take Toad into his own and letting him have his own game kind of gives him a little bit more personality than I felt. Like, I didn't know I wanted to see it like that, but once I saw it, I was like, yes, I want this game. And then to see how they're evolving the systems, like, the enemy encounters, the boss encounters, like, everything is kind of modest because Toad can't fight, but it's still done in a very charming way. So, for example, there was one part where there's a boss battle, but Toad doesn't fight, so the whole boss battle you're running from this huge dragon that's kind of chasing after you, and you're like making your way up this tower. And when you get to the top of the tower, like Toad accidentally trips and knocks down a column, which kills the boss. And you get the the traditional Mario kill the boss theme or whatever. But it was like funny, but it made sense for the character, and it's like it's a charming way to use the way that you have to play that game to execute a boss battle. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I've got to say, like, I've loved Toad. I've had a real, like, soft spot in my heart for him ever since the Japanese comic strip for Mario World that ran in Nintendo Power, where they gave the Toads a lot of personality, and ever since then I've really loved that character. Also, I used him a lot in Super Mario Bros. 2, and I will say, Angelo did send us a massive email about his impressions of the Nintendo thing, and so I'll try to throw some stuff in here, but as far as Toad, he says that he's curious about this one, but he says, only because I saw Super Mario Bros. 2 elements in it, like the pulling up of the plants and throwing them at enemies. Which is true, like, that was a really nice little nod to that game, because I'm a huge Mario 2 fan. I know a lot of people hate on it, or they poo-poo it because it's technically not a Mario game, but I feel that they're sitting on a gold mine. Like, there's elements of those games that they could totally mine for new adventures, and they haven't, so that was nice to see.
They kind of did with 3D World with the 4-player and controlling Peach and stuff. But what I will say, I forgot to mention about that, Did you see how when they run away from the Shy Guy, eventually Shy Guy just kind of gets tired and gives up?
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, if you watch the gameplay, I think it was on the same live stream. Like they showed him throwing like the turnips at the Shy Guy, and then he got too close, so he just started running around, and they had like a little running in circles type of thing, and eventually Shy Guy just like stopped and like started taking a breath, and then like looked really sad, and then walked away. Like, and it was really, it had that Nintendo charm to it, and it was really funny, actually.
Yeah, and I liked that, I mean, all I saw was the trailer and the Nintendo, like, presentation, but almost every bit from that game looked different from the thing that had happened before. And that was really impressive, too. Like, I think that, again, like, there's not a lot of people talking about it, but I feel that could be, like, the stealthy, like, must-play game on the Wii U this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, Patrick, did you have any thoughts on that one, or did it just kind of like, were you just kind of meh on it?
Oh, I loved it. I would like to see him again. But you guys had seen so much more of it, I thought I didn't really have that much to add. But, he's always been one of my favorite characters ever since probably Super Mario Bros. 3, seeing him in the top of the castle, and he's lovable, and I can't wait to play that one. I was like surprised that he got his own game, so it was, one of the bigger surprises I thought of the whole show for me.
Yeah. Now, I know, Patrick, you can't wait to talk about this one, but I think that I need to, like, bring Angela's comment into it to really kick it off. But, as far as Wii U Zelda is concerned, Angelo says, well, apparently Nintendo was listening to our podcast where we talked about where we wanted this game to go, because this is what I wanted.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. I think in a lot of ways they did exactly what most Zelda fans have been complaining about. And, Nintendo for years has been kind of confused on how they're going to keep Zelda the same while changing it up to please everybody. And I feel like this is the closest they've been to that in a while.
Yeah, I'll let Patrick go because I don't want to rain on his parade because...
Well, I mean, it's like the most gorgeous Vista I've ever seen, probably.
Oh, yeah, I made that opening screen is going to be my wallpaper. I forgot to do it. Let me do it right now.
And I can go everywhere. But what they said was they wanted to do that like way back with N64, and then they were revealing how they had to like do different things because of the limitations. They had to zone different places like Fire Mountain and stuff like that or whatever. And now they're probably going to have those same things, but it's going to be like you could see the volcano way in the distance and you can get to that. Like I could see it in that picture and I know I can go there and I can't wait to. But then they're talking about all these things like they are used to having big enemies and like the open world and stuff like that. And I'm thinking those are more like boss looking characters. This tentacle spider looking guy who's like coming after Link or maybe Zelda, some people think. I've never seen something like that, like moving so fluidly through the environment, going all off the walls, and then when he gets in the water and starts to use his then it looks like tentacles. Before it looked like spider legs, but he knocks the wooden planks into the air, and it's just like I've never seen that level of detail before, and I didn't think I could be this hyped for a game, and it's just like taking me by surprise because I have played so many of those, and I just really want to play that one now.
Yeah, like I feel like that thing is more of a boss character. They probably just showed it because, it was probably one of their earlier bosses that they could show to get attention because it has those lasers, and as soon as you see a laser in Zelda, you're like, what? But in a good way though. Yeah, you could talk, Julian. I know you have some words.
Well, there's two things that really stood out to me, and the problem with this is that it's almost like back in the old EGM days where it's like, we've got 2 new screenshots of Final Fantasy VII, and it's like, that's all we have to go on, but we're going to make a whole article out of it, because obviously, they showed, 30 seconds of that game, if that's even a game yet. I don't think it's coming out in 2015. I think it's going to get delayed, because Zelda games always get delayed, so I'm thinking 2016, but regardless, the two things that really stood out to me as far as game changers was one, I loved the fact that they showed Link using a bow and not a sword.
We don't know if it's Link though.
It looked like Link.
Well, according to Yeah, like, because I think Onuma, I don't know if it was Onuma or Miyamoto, but one of them said who said Link was who said that was Link. And based on, just looking at it, it does kind of make sense that it might not be Link. Now, I do think it probably is, because if you look at him, he's wearing a shirt that looks kind of like Wind Waker Link's shirt from before he became the hero. But I have a theory that either it may not be Link, it could be Zelda.
Well,
or it could be
fantastic.
Could be a random Hyrulean thing.
Yeah, exactly. It could just be another character, because if you look at the hair also, he has a ponytail, so there's more hair there. So he could be just parading, or she could be parading as, a hero. Like, this could be like a Zelda that is more, hands-on, or...
I think we might get to play more as Sheik.
Perhaps.
Well, I mean, to me it just looked like typical Ladyboy Link, but my point is that, I think it could be. I think it would be really awesome, and again, we have nothing to go on, this is all, just from, very little footage, but it'd be a really cool thing to me if he didn't use a sword in the game. If his main weapon was a bow, or if it was a thing where it's well, you're actually going to use Link the way that you see fit, or whoever the character is, so maybe you decide that you want your primary weapon to be a bow, or a sword, or a hammer, or maybe for the first time, you have a magic casting hero in a Zelda game where it's we've had magic before, but it's always been very canned things, but this would be something where he's actually physically casting spells with a rod or something like that. I think changing things up is really cool, and I love the fact that, he wasn't wearing the green tunic and the hat, and I know they've done that in the past with a couple games where he doesn't put it on until later, but my wish is that they take that green tunic and they take that green hat and they throw it on the floor and they stomp on it and they light it on fire. Because it's time for a new design. And I think he looked really cool in that trailer.
Yeah, he did. He definitely did. That trailer is gorgeous. And for those who don't know, apparently that gameplay was all in-engine. That was not CGI. That was not a trailer. That was all in-game, apparently. So if that's the truth, then, my gosh, we're in for something.
Mm-hmm. Also a really great compromise, because, it has this very unique style that's, it's not Wind Waker by any means, but it's definitely a more stylized version of that world, but still gives you the elements of, the grown-up looking characters.
It has a lot of those watermarks, from Skyward Sword, too, so it's kind of like a mix between that and Wind Waker, I think, because it has more of the, watercoloring to it that, kind of blends from color to color.
Yeah, and that's something that I've wanted from Zelda. What I have said, I don't think I said it on this show, but it's something that I've always wanted. I've always wanted a Zelda game to look like the art of Daryl K. Sweet, who is most famously known for doing the book covers to the Wheel of Time books, where it just looks like a really cool fantasy painting. And this isn't quite that, but it's kind of like that through a Nintendo filter. And I'm all for that. And if they can make good on these promises that they have, that could be the thing that gets me interested in Zelda again. Because I always get excited for a new Zelda game, and then I realize that it's just the same old stuff all over again, and I've kind of been over that for almost 20 years now, so. But I was impressed. It looked amazing.
Yes, it did. It was very exciting to watch.
Yeah. I wish there had been more.
Yeah, I know. But, there'll probably be a direct, the way that Nintendo does their directs, there's probably going to be one either at the end of the year or early next year that'll have some, a more full trailer. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm going to skip Pokemon because it's just more Pokemon.
I do want to say one thing about Pokemon. Well, a couple small things. I like that they're just doing more than just remaking it. They're adding a lot to it that intrigues me personally. Now, yes, I am a little biased because I play all the games religiously regardless anyway, but they do seem to be making this more than just a flat remake. But the main thing and the obvious highlight of the game is the fact that Swampert's been in the gym for 11 years, and he's about to put in work. He did skip leg day, but it's okay because he humongous now, and he looks like a beast.
Okay.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google Mega Swampert and look at all the memes.
Okay. Is it half as entertaining as Death Stare Luigi? Because that's the best thing ever.
It's I don't think it's gonna be as big as that, but if you know Pokemon, it's about the same. Like when I saw how huge he was, like the Pokemon community has been making jokes about it, like that and Ike's. Like Ike is a little bit more reasonable, but a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, Ike's been in the gym." Well, if you think Ike's been in the gym, then Swampert, he looks like he's roided out. He really does.
Yeah, but as far as Pokemon are concerned, I just saw Greninja's like Final Smash and Smash Brothers, and I don't even know that guy because I haven't played that version of Pokemon, but he looked like a viable character and someone I really want to play as.
Yeah, Greninja's my dude. But we'll talk about that later.
Fair enough. And then next was Bayonetta 2, which, I mean, JD, you and I were actually talking on Facebook when they made the initial announcement that Bayonetta 2 was exclusive to the Wii U, and I was like, that's my system seller.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of is because I love Bayonetta.
Yeah, and I really do think you're gonna like it just because, I don't know if you guys read my preview from New York Comic Con, listeners. If you haven't, you should check it out. But that game was amazing. Like, it's the perfect, like, it's zany and it's fun and it runs really well on the system. Like, it ran 60 frames. It looked beautiful. That game is gonna be good. And then the fact that they have Bayonetta 1 in there also is...
With super mega Nintendo fan service outfits, which are so awesome.
Yeah. Like, did you see how skimpy the Peach outfit is? Like, you can see her ass in that thing. It's kind of weird. And I was like, and I was watching the Treehouse live stream today, and they were talking about the Link costume. And they went out of their way to say that the people at Nintendo, initially, Bayonetta's Link costume was going to have a white t-shirt underneath the tunic, right? But then Nintendo said, oh, that t-shirt doesn't really need to be there. So Platinum was like, okay, so they removed the t-shirt, so you see the cleavage and then you see the tunic. So it's like, they made her even sexier than she would have been, which is kind of interesting for Nintendo, like, considering what the preconceived notion of their company is.
That is interesting to me, and it's funny because Angelo's comment on this was simply "friggin' sold," and then in parentheses he says, "Now how am I going to get this or sneak this past my wife?" But my answer to Angelo would be that it seems to me, and maybe I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, JD, after you telling me that, but looking at the Bayonetta 2 trailer, it seems like they kind of backed off of her costume being made out of her hair, and it seems like she's wearing actual clothes.
Nope. It's still, like, I was watching Bayonetta 2 gameplay, and, like, she was doing some stuff, and, like, there was one just regular basic move that she did, and it took most of her hair off of her body.
But her hair's so short now, so that leads me to believe that the costume's coming from, like, her pits or something.
Who knows, but, it's still same old Bayonetta that we know. But I watched some of the gameplay today, and they showed some of the stuff so you could still transform into the Panther and run around, and they added a snake so you can go in the water and use that. But yeah, that game is just going to be really fun. Like, that's an easy purchase for me. And then just having Bayonetta 1 in there kind of sweetens the deal.
Yeah, that's a really good value. Like, it's one of those things where me being the weird collector that I am, I could see myself buying that copy just to make sure that I have it, even if I don't buy a Wii U. Just to make sure, just in case, that I've got that on hand.
Oh, man.
I have an illness.
The only cure is more video games.
Right? And maybe more cowbell. And then, I gotta say, I'm not a Dynasty Warriors fan, and you guys know I'm not a huge Zelda fan, but I kind of could possibly be a fan of Hyrule Warriors.
What is that?
I don't know. It looked really polished and really fun. Like, it seemed to be doing more than what I've noticed from the Dynasty Warriors games, especially bringing in, like, the Zelda type of bosses where, because in the Dynasty Warriors games, just by the nature of what they are, I mean, you're not going to have, like, a 10-foot tall Chinese warrior that you all of a sudden have to fight, because those don't exist. So, I don't know.
I forgot to mention something about Bayonetta that might interest.
Oh, sure.
online co-op.
No, I don't care.
But it has it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And that kind of, the reason why it came to my head is, one, because I think that's a pretty interesting thing, because I think the second player plays as the girl with the white hair, I forgot her name. But, for Hyrule Warriors, one of the interesting draws is the co-op feature. Like, I know it has not split screen, but, the local co-op at least. One player plays on the TV monitor, the other player will play on the gamepad, and you both could pretty much be defending whatever area you're defending, together, and, trying to hold everything off and have your split screen experience without having to split the screens, which is pretty dope. I think more games should do that on that system since they can. Like Mario Kart, when you play split screen, you can play it on the gamepad, but even on the gamepad you see the split screen, which is kind of dumb. Like, I think it would make more sense if, you just have your own individual screen there.
Yeah,
but,
it's weird to me that they haven't capitalized on that gamepad as much as I think they should have, so I thought it was a really good implementation of it for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, I think the premise of that game is way more intriguing than it has the right to be, because I never gave a crap about Dynasty Warriors. I'm a big Zelda fan, but one, I will say, when they started revealing more stuff about the game, like when they revealed Impa as a playable character, I started getting more interested because the character designs seem really cool, and then, Zelda looks awesome in that game. I'm surprised that Midna's playable, and I'm not even going to try to piece together how that makes any sense because, I'm just, going to suspend disbelief. So I saw some of Zelda's gameplay today, and she fights like a fencer, and, she has a lot of style. And then apparently there's some other mage character in the game who's on the box art or whatever, but, yeah, like from what I've seen, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm kind of excited about it, but I just can't shake that Dynasty Warriors part of it. I'm really a fan of them introducing those characters as playable, because then it gets us closer to the people who aren't Link, and we'll start to see more people who know about those characters too.
Yeah. Do you know anything about the plot? Because I read a couple of things that sound also very untraditional of Nintendo.
No.
Because apparently the plot of the game, there's a villain who's, very, I guess she's kind of scantily clad, like her boobs are kind of way out there. But anyway,
well, it's a technical game.
Yeah, true. But apparently that character used to be a friend of Link's or something, or she had a crush on Link. And then once Link joined the Hyrule army and stuff and started spending more time with Zelda, she got really jealous. So she pretty much went mad and crazy and turned evil, and now has this, army, and is trying to destroy Hyrule to get back at Link for, ignoring her or something weird like that. And, yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, just to kind of, they're kind of inferring the Link-Zelda romance a little bit more, or at least some kind of romance angle, which is, not very traditional for Nintendo, but at the same time, it's interesting enough to make me say, okay, I'll see how that plays out, even if it's kind of silly.
Yeah, I think it looks good enough. Again, it was sort of like Yoshi, where it's not something that makes me want to own a Wii U, but if I owned a Wii U, I'd probably play it. I might not buy it like day one, but I'd probably pick it up eventually. And
yeah,
because but honestly, I played Dynasty Warriors 2 for like an hour, and that was kind of enough.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of good for the next 10 years, or it's longer than that. But I don't know. But I think maybe having that Zelda, sheen on it, and with Nintendo working with Tecmo Koei, like you just know that it's going to be nice and polished. So
yeah. I mean, it looks more interesting than any Dynasty Warriors, and since I've never played one, it'll probably take me a little bit longer to get burnt out on it, like as opposed to someone who's played a few Dynasty Warriors games. And then I saw a little video of like someone using a special attack which involved pulling the moon from Majora's Mask down into that dragon boss from Twilight Princess, and I was like, okay, I'll buy this game. Like, it looks like it has some ridiculousness in there, so I'm down.
I like it. So yeah, and then, Angelo, seems very excited about Xenoblade Chronicles because all he says is, oh, hell, yes.
Did you even understand what was going on in that trailer? I watched it like twice and I'm like, who's talking and like, what does it all mean? Like, one guy's just all of a sudden like, all of mankind must die at the end, and it's like, I have no idea why they're this serious.
Like, I'm with Angelo in the hype of the game because I love Xenoblade Chronicles so much, like the Wii one. However, that trailer was a little confusing, but I read a little article on the story premise, so I kind of understood the context a little bit more the second time I watched it. But yeah, they did go a little overboard because they wanted to show all the space stuff and show how anime-like it could be, which is fine, you know, because that's the type of game it is. But from what I understand, it's about, like, you know, it's kind of like Final Fantasy. It's a spiritual successor more than, you know, just a direct sequel to Xenoblade. Like, so there's going to be some similarities, but I don't think it has anything to do with the Monado or with Shulk or anything. But from what I saw, from what I read at least, apparently the planet that the human characters live on is kind of the middle ground of this war that's going on in space between these two factions, and they're pretty much, the Earth is kind of getting the brunt of most of that war, so the humans are being forced to evacuate Earth because if they don't leave, then those two warring factions are going to destroy them kind of as collateral damage. And apparently they get kind of wrapped into that whole war as they're trying to escape. So that's all I know about it so far. But I know there's mechs and Xenoblade combat. And I don't know if you saw any of the gameplay, but that world looks so vast and beautiful. Like, the character models look weird, but the faces at least. But if you look at the actual gameplay and the graphics and how just vast it is, it's incredible looking.
Am I the only one who looked at it and was kind of scratching his head, thinking that it looked like a Wii game?
Yes, because I could see why, like, the faces, yes, I can understand that. But if you look at like the gameplay from the live stream, it's like night and day. Like the trailer didn't really do the best job at showing off what that game was. Okay,
because I was getting like some serious like great PS2 / decent Wii vibes from the graphics, and that's no bueno to me. Like,
yeah, it was just the way that trailer showed it, because the game looks so much better than that.
Okay,
like, I'm not even trying to exaggerate. Like, it really does.
I mean, I still want to play Xenoblade. I have it, and like right when I unhooked my Wii, when I got my PS4, I was like, I all of a sudden had this overwhelming urge to try to play that game, but then I get, worried when people say that it's like a friggin' 120-hour game, and I just don't have patience.
Yeah, like I started playing it again during that downtime we had, and I'm about 40-something hours in. I'm from what I looked at, I'm definitely more than halfway through. Like, I'm in the last third of the game. It is really good. It's definitely very good. It's just really long, but as Mike will tell you, just if you skip the side quest, you'll be all right. If you try to do the side quest, you're probably going to end up spending that 120. If you don't, I would say it's about 55, 60, which is about standard affair.
Yeah, that's doable. I can still do that. Yeah, I'm kind of at this point with RPGs where when I hit 40 hours, I kind of want to be in the end game by that point.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's one advantage of the Final Fantasy 13. Like, I felt like it ended right around where I wanted it to.
Yeah. Well, somehow I still ended up putting about 60 hours into that one.
Well, it happens.
Yeah, it does. But, let's talk about Splatoon, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Call of Duty.
Where did this come from, and why does it look so awesome?
Because it's Nintendo, and Nintendo trying something different. Well, even though they're different is something that is very common, but it's still really interesting looking.
Well, but I think the key is that it's technically not Nintendo, or at least it's not like
direct.
Right, it's second party. They actually employed other people and paid them to make like their own version of like being Nintendo. I was listening to Reggie about this too, and he was saying how this is like Nintendo's plan more for the future to like support people who they see are making something nice and just like need a little bit more economy or need a little bit of guidance or something like that. And I'm like, wow, this is like a whole different way of speaking Nintendo. You're acting like the other companies a little bit with their indie approach, except they're actually adding money to it too.
Yeah, and I mean, I had said, in our like Nintendo episode that one of the things that they need to do is start hiring new people and new teams and let them just run, and it seems like that's what this is. But then, there's a really good part where the developers were saying, well, we did it the Nintendo way where we came up with the gameplay first and then we kind of built characters around that. And so it's clear that like, even though they're doing their own thing, Nintendo is telling them, well, here's how we do things. And like, okay, well, that makes sense. So we're going to go ahead and do that as well. And you get this really inspired game. And it's another thing where, and I was talking about this last night too, where it's like, it's one of those amazing looking experiences that I'll probably never have because I just don't play multiplayer. But just the core concept is so brilliant where it's like, I don't know, it's like a 5-minute long presentation and it was like 4 minutes in before I realized that you could actually shoot each other. Like, I was like, oh, so I guess you just try to like, occupy the battlefield and there's not even any like, you're not even trying to like take people down, but no, that's in there too. It's just not the focal point.
Yeah, like, I really like how just fun it looks off the bat because, the way the mechanics work, you have your, there's a lot of, strategy in terms of, field management, but at the same time, there's, still that competitive shooting edge. And then, of course, you have this whole squid mechanic where, you just have a lot of mobility and you could kind of get bonkers and you could shoot paint wherever and just wherever the paint is, you can go and you can get creative and, it's the right thing for Nintendo to be doing or, just to keep people interested. Now, like, one question I did have, I don't know if you guys know or not, but is that this year or next year, and is that downloadable or is that a retail game? Because
it's next
right now
year.
It seems like a downloadable type of, like, free-to-play almost type of game, but I don't know.
It is next year, but I am kind of with you because with it only being like 8 players and it being like apparently like multiplayer only, I don't know how, what that has in terms of legs or if that is a full retail game.
Sounds just like Titanfall when it first came out, right? I don't know. That's more.
Yeah.
I kind of compare it to Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare. That's kind of what it reminds me of.
Right, and Garden Warfare did come out, at retail, but it was also like a lower priced game. So I could almost see that. But, like I said, like, they got so far into the trailer and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, and we also have different weapons. And I wasn't even expecting that, so it's like...
Oh, wow.
Did you not see it where like they have like the paint roller or like they've got like a sniper rifle and a rocket launcher?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah, so stuff like that. And then, I mean, there's going to be so many ways for players to learn how to break those environments by using the paint in really weird ways. So...
I know that paint is offensive and defensive, but what I really like is that you can stealthily just stay in your own paint and hope people come near you and pop out once they pass you and, shoot them like a ninja.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, like, it looks like a ton of fun. Like, I think that that game sold a lot of people. Like, even my friend who's been very, iffy on the whole Wii U, like, he's been looking, trying to get me to convince him to be interested in it for a while, but he watched the conference and Splatoon caught his attention. Even with the, the cartoony look, a lot of people would assume that just because it's cartoony, it's not going to get attention, but it's definitely been getting a lot of positive press so far.
The only thing is that I didn't think they used the gamepad, like, very innovatively. It's just,
it's a map,
Yeah, the map. I mean, it's awesome that it's in real time being generated, like what paint is where, but it's not as innovative as I think what you guys were saying Hyrule was, and also the new Star Fox, which is using the cockpit as the gamepad. So
yeah.
Oh, see, I haven't even seen the new Star Fox, but I will say real quick.
Yeah, they haven't showed gameplay for it yet, but there's a lot of reports.
Well, I was just gonna say that like Splatoon might have been my favorite game that they showed in that entire presentation, because I mean Zelda, there was so little of it, and it's like I kind of don't. I'm gonna reserve any excitement for that until I see that it's an actual thing, because it could very well be the whole Link versus Ganon from Nintendo Space World for the GameCube that never turned into a thing. So, I'll wait and see that one.
I think the tech demo from 2011 was more of that. Like, I think this is the actual game.
I hope so.
That Twilight Princess tech demo is more of the hoodwink, even though it's not really a hoodwink. I quite like both art styles, so. Yeah.
One can maybe resurface later on as the next Zelda game once they're really ready for realistic graphics toward the end of the cycle of the Wii U. But yeah,
I mean, if they want to go that way, I mean, at this rate, they might not want to. Who knows? But we'll see.
I mean, I would still love to see a version of Link where he's wearing like plate mail with like 2 different swords strapped to his waist and like a really badass looking gauntlet that's so different from anything he's ever worn before.
Yeah, like Hyrule Warriors Link actually is the closest to that because he's part of an army, so he has a little bit more of a knightly look to him, which I think is cool, but, he's still obviously Link, but if you look at his design compared to most other Links, he looks more like armored up, so it's a step in that direction at least.
Yeah. And it's, like me, I'm just all about shaking it up, shaking things up. So it's not that, I think that the traditional Link is, bad. It's a very iconic look. I just think that, it's been almost 30 years. They can do something new.
Well, they're going the right direction so far, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the whole presentation was in the right direction. I think my only problem with it was that it was so short. I mean, I really feel that I think Nintendo's on the right track as far as like doing their own thing and not like doing the whole big press conference. But I also feel that like the fact that there was no 3DS stuff in that thing was not a good idea. It was kind of weird, and they did show some indie stuff afterwards. Like also, like one of the complaints from some fans was that it was disjointed because they saved a lot of their reveals for after the press conference. Like right after the press conference, they showed a lot of eShop stuff. They showed like Shovel Knight and whatever. They showed Mario Party 10, like they unveiled after the press conference. And then they had a couple more Smash Brothers reveals yesterday, aside from Palutena and the Mii. Also, like just a side note, Palutena looks pretty interesting in that game. Yeah.
Another one of those leaked characters in that list. But and then last night they showed Pac-Man and hinted at Mr. Game & Watch.
Yeah, I was wondering if Game & Watch is actually in it because they showed like him like coming from the side of the screen, and then they're both like 1980, and they point to each Game & Watch and Pac-Man, and then they show 1981 with Donkey Kong and Mario. It's like the other 3 are in there. How is Game & Watch not?
Yeah, so I'm gonna assume he is.
Yeah,
because they wouldn't do that without
And the other thing that's still in the new game is all the final smashes from the old guys look to be the same. What do you think about that?
Yeah, like from what I played, I guess to give a little context, yesterday Nintendo had a event at Nintendo World Store in New York, where they had a whole bunch of people come to watch the 16-player invitational tournament. One of my good friends, Winton Smith, aka Prague, he was doing some of the casting there, so I really wanted to watch that. But interestingly enough, at that event, which I wasn't sure of, they did have the game playable, so they had a whole bunch of us go and play it, and I got a great amount of hands-on time with the demo. And most of the characters, are carrying over their final smashes. Like Fox, I saw still has Landmaster. Sonic still turns into Supersonics. Pikachu still has Volt Tackle, and Samus still has her beam. I'm pretty sure almost all of them are the same. One new one that I did see is Zero Suit Samus. Instead of transforming back into Samus, her final smash is now like she jumps into the her ship and then she fires lasers out. It's very much the same as Solid Snake's, well, except for it's not a grenade launcher, it's more like a laser. And I'm pretty sure they did that because Solid Snake's not in the game anymore.
Yeah.
But
that's pretty cool though, because Zero Suit Samus was probably my main.
Yeah, like she's pretty dope in this. Like if you, I don't know if you know, but the person who won the invitational, his name was Zero. He actually used Zero Suit Samus to win. One could argue how he won it because he won it in sudden death. He got lucky a little, but that said, it was a really interesting tournament. The game itself is really cool. Like I don't know how much you guys follow the competitive Smash scene at all, if at all.
Just when you talk to us about it.
Yeah, cause pretty much, I'm not gonna get too technical into it because I could talk technical about Smash Brothers for a long time, but, at the end of the day, the game is extremely fun, and I probably played, like, as many matches as they would let me yesterday, which is probably, like, 9 or 10 matches on the Wii U version, and I played, one round of Smash Run on the 3DS. Both versions of the game run extremely well, like 60 frames. The Wii U version looks beautiful. The 3DS version looks just as great, like it runs smoothly. It, plays, exactly the same as the Wii U version. There's no C-stick or, other analog stick to do quick smashes or whatever, but, you can mentally adjust pretty easily. But yeah, it feels exactly the same, so it's going to be a good alternative. But the Wii U version where the bread and butter is, like, it was really fun. They had us playing with time and items, and I like to play stock. Like, I like to play more traditional tournament rules, but they had their, the stock and the items and random stages that had, hazards and whatnot, and so we were just having fun with it. And it really plays more similarly to Brawl than Melee, but it has a little bit more, I guess, thought into it. Like it feels like they still built it to be at least somewhat competitive as opposed to Brawl, where I felt like it was built to be anti-competitive in some ways. Time will tell how it develops, but there's some interesting gameplay decisions in there that make it, it still makes it fun, but at the same time, like initially, it gives off more definitely a strong Brawl vibe. But both of those, even if you didn't like Brawl as a competitive game, it was still a fun game. I don't think anyone can deny that. So, it's more Smash Brothers, and that's good. Out of the new characters, I only used Rosalina and Greninja. Greninja is amazing. I know you were talking about him earlier, Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know you didn't play Pokemon X or Y, but
right.
Pokemon X, Froakie was my starter because, I usually go for the water starters anyway. And Greninja is just a cool Pokemon regardless. He does ninja signs even in that game, so seeing him in Smash Brothers, for me, he felt so really natural. Like even as a new character, like I was able to pick him up and play him and like go to town right away. So I really liked Greninja. Rosalina was a little weird because like I feel like Rosalina is that type of character that you learn how to play after you've played the game for a while and you're comfortable with how it works in general. But because her gameplay revolves around using the Luma in a lot of her attacks. So she has an attack that sends out the Luma, and she can pretty much attack an enemy without being directly next to them. Like pretty much the Luma imitates her movements. So you can either use that to combo enemies, or you can use that to fight enemies from far away. But she was pretty fun. But I spent most of my time using Link, who's my traditional main, and he definitely has some differences from, previous incarnations. Like, I spend a lot of time playing Project M, which is a mod of Brawl, and that's more like Melee. I feel like the best version of Link is in that game, even after playing this new Smash Brothers. But this, the way the changes they made to him are interesting, and I'm still feeling them out. But I think they're going to make him a little bit of a different character. But he has different. Sorry.
He looked a little buff to me versus like the Brawl version, which I was kind of turned off by because I don't know. His Final Smash had like a smaller radius than it looked like he has in this. And it looked like most of his abilities were a little bit easier to hit.
Mm-hmm. Like his Final Smash is still the same, so don't expect too much from that. But like his recovery was notoriously bad in Brawl. Mm-hmm. In this game, he has his recovery seems a lot better. Like I was surviving from places I didn't think that I would be able to survive from. That's also due in part to how different the edge game works in this game, because you can't exactly ledge hog the same way. You have to be a little bit more aggressive with it. Also, Link has a chain that he can use to like grapple to the corner, and in past games that chain was like particularly short compared to someone like Samus, would go like really far. But Link's actually goes a lot farther now, so it makes him survive a lot easier. And on top of that, like he has different kill moves now. So his running attack, which they changed, is now a kill move as opposed to just like doing a small amount of damage. You can actually kill someone with a really easy running attack. So he has access to that. But they did nerf his spin attack, so it's not as strong as it was in Melee or anything. But it's better than it was in Brawl. So it's kind of like you get a little bit, but, it's still interesting though. It's interesting enough to make me want to keep playing it.
I just want to pick Little Mac and punch things.
Oh yeah, Little Mac is pretty crazy. Like, a couple of my friends were using Little Mac, and like his aerial game is terrible. Like he can't really survive from off the stage, but he's so quick and he just gets in there, and once he gets that KO punch, it doesn't automatically KO. Like if they're low enough percent, they'll still live. But Little Mac has a lot going for him. Like I think you're gonna have fun with him. He just kind of zips around and punches the crap out of people, and he has super armor on most of his moves. And
actually got to see that. Sorry.
No, I was done.
I got to see that video where they were using Little Mac in the 3DS exclusive part of the Smash Brothers, where you get to like level up your character before the battle, and
Smash Run.
Fast. Sorry.
Smash Run.
Yeah, he seemed really fast, and they were saying how you gotta like probably up his power a little bit because he was not like the strongest character. So that's interesting. He's got like that one really strong move, I guess, the KO punch.
Well, I mean that's Little Mac to a T. It's like he's a little dude, but then you get the star and you do an uppercut and you knock people down.
Yeah.
So. Love it. But I guess we're probably gonna wrap up.
Can we talk quickly about that new 3DS game?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, and the reason I was so quiet just recently is that I was looking on Nintendo's E3 site, because last year, they did their Nintendo Digital thing at the beginning of the show, and then they had a secondary event for 3DS specifically, and I came away much more excited from the 3DS stuff, and I'm a little disappointed that there's not a lot of 3DS stuff. It doesn't seem like they announced very much. They're not doing an event for it, and that's weird to me because I feel like the 3DS is a much larger user base than the Wii U, and it's doing really well, and I love my 3DS. I've really been enjoying it lately, and it doesn't seem like there's really anything huge for it, but you were telling me, JD, before the show about a game from the creators of Advance Wars and Fire Emblem.
Yeah. So, well, to kind of go on your point, I do agree, but I felt like strategically it made sense for them to focus on Wii U because Wii U needs it as opposed to 3DS, which is definitely going to be afloat for a good while. Like, even if it, sure, it might not be selling as well as the regular DS, but, it has a more than decent software library, and they just came out with a couple of games, and the Wii U kind of needed that push. However, today they announced a game well, just now actually, just a few hours ago, or an hour ago, they announced, I think it's called Codename Steam, or something, whatever, but regardless, it's made, but, regardless, it's, made by Intelligent Systems, I think, and they made, Advance Wars and Fire Emblem, and it's a turn-based strategy game / shooting type of game, and it, has like a comic booky art style, and a pretty zany sci-fi plot that involves aliens and Abraham Lincoln.
I read a little bit of steampunk vibe too.
Yes, very much so. But I don't know. It looks really cool, and I like Fire Emblem, and I remember playing some Advance Wars back in the day, so I'm pretty confident that they're going to make an interesting game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sold on the concept. I think the only problem for me is that I was really hoping that after Fire Emblem, which was my game of the year last year, that their next game would be like the next Advance Wars, because I loved the first game on GBA. Kind of fell away from it after that, but it's been so long that I'd love to go back to it.
Yeah, I actually did hear that apparently in that presentation they said that Shin Megami Cross Fire Emblem is still on schedule, and they also said that news on new Fire Emblem and Advance Wars games will be or are in the pipeline. Like they're working on games in those series, just they're not ready to be officially announced yet. But they did mention Advance Wars, so.
Okay, I'm just happy to know that they're even thinking about it, so.
Yeah, me too, because I thought they ruined it with Battalion Wars and then just dropped it.
Well, then there was that second one on the DS where it was all, like, super serious, and I thought they kind of missed the point of what that series was.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but that's cool. And they also announced this game from Level 5, this RPG that looks kind of nifty.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we forgot to talk about Devil's Third.
Oh, all I heard was that that's like exclusive to the Wii U now, and I couldn't help but laugh.
Yeah, it's really weird. I meant to talk about this around when we were talking about Bayonetta, because it kind of, Bayonetta makes a little bit more sense. Not necessarily, but it kind of reminded me of that same kind of Bayonetta vibe. But when I watched the trailer for Devil's Third, I couldn't really help but laugh because it looks so zany that I'm interested in it, but I don't know if it's going to be a good game or not. But all I know is it looks super weird. Like the main character, he's all tatted up, and it's like he fights with a sword, but he also has a gun, and when you use the gun, it goes into first person, like really quick. And then it goes back into third person when you're using the sword again, and then there was one scene where he was playing the drums like an idiot, and I'm like, what is going on in this game? But I don't know if any of you guys follow Game Informer, but there's this guy, Dan Reichert, who used to work for them, and it seems like his kind of game. Like, just that kind of over-the-top zany doesn't make any sense, but it's probably a little fun.
Sounds great, but Reggie also made like a comment where I thought he was really over the top about it, because it was that and the paintball game where it was basically saying like, yeah, we have like third party stuff coming down the pipeline and even second party stuff. Like it's not all Nintendo, but when he said like exclusive titles, like he only mentioned Devil's Third, and it was like the big thing, and I'm thinking to myself, really? He's that confident?
I mean, it's hard to be Reggie. It's a rough. I do not envy that man, because the way that he has to spin things for the last like 5 or 6 years is so. It's like I just watch him. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, this is his 10th I guess, and it's funny to like actually count the number of times he says the word candidly, and you like watching him from year to year go from more candid to pretending to be candid to just saying it in the middle of his sentence, not even realizing it.
Yeah, it's like this is the same guy who's had to tout games that came to the States like Disaster Day of Crisis and Project Hammer, and he had to gloat about games like Wii Music and Nintendo Land, like they're going to be very successful, but he tried to sell it, he stood by them in those times.
Mm-hmm.
Did Project Hammer ever come out?
Nope.
Okay.
And Disaster never made it to America, but I do know Nick, who, the site owner. I think he played the European version, and I don't know. I don't know if he liked it or not. And if he did like it, I think he liked it because of how bad it was or how weird it was. And if it wasn't Nick, it was his younger brother Rob. But yeah, I know somebody from Pixelbit played that game, so you'd have to ask them how it actually ended up being.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't very good.
But no, I mean, I gotta say, like, Nintendo had some really impressive stuff. I still feel that they didn't come out swinging as hard as I would have liked them to, simply because of the position they're in. I felt the same way about Microsoft also, where, I expected Microsoft to do a lot more, drop some bombs where it was like, holy crap, I can't believe that they got that, or I can't believe this is coming out. I mean, Nintendo definitely had some surprises, and then they had some stuff that we were kind of, figuring on. I kind of expected, I was still hoping for, the Holy Trinity. I thought there was going to be a new Mario and a new Metroid game shown. When they
there was Mario Maker.
I mean, it looks cool, don't get me wrong, but it's not a Mario game. But I definitely got a very strong Mario Paint vibe from it, which I thought was kind of nifty, down to the fact that they even had, the old, fly swatter cursor. So,
you just have to see how much they actually pack into the Maker, because if it's just what they showed, that's not nearly enough, and no one's going to be able to make very diverse levels. But if it is, something where people are making levels on, the caliber of, I don't know, New Super Mario Brothers DS even, instead of New Super Mario Brothers Wii or something, it's good enough for me for another Mario game. Could be.
I liked the switching from, the HD style, sprites into, actual polygons, but I think it'd be cool if there was, a third level where it actually went to, Mario World sprites.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be cool if you could switch between 3 of them. I think that'd be amazing. But, no, I mean, but I meant actually, the hey, Miyamoto's making a Mario game and this is it thing.
Right.
But, and on top of that, when they introduced Palatea on Smash Brothers, I was thinking they could really leverage Kid Icarus again, because let's face it, the Kid Icarus on the 3DS, that was a Wii game. It should have been on the Wii. That was a console-ass console game. They should just go ahead and make a Wii U Kid Icarus, because I think, I don't think it did as well as they would have hoped.
It has quite the fan following, though. I've played it, at least half of it, and what I played of it I really did like. It has a certain charm to it that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I beat it and reviewed it, loved it, and want to play more of it, and can't recommend it enough.
And I also think that it's a perfect amiibo candidate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because they already have the AR cards for it. That's what they introduced it for, so you can basically, just take what you were trying to do there and apply it again.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was a very good showing. I mean, I would say I'd kind of put all 3 in the same camp as far as, I feel that all 3 presentations from the big companies were pretty safe, but they were also really solid. So I didn't come away, disappointed from any of them, but I also didn't come away, super excited from any of them. But there's definitely probably more standout titles from Nintendo, that I saw. But at the same time, it's it was almost all Wii U, and I don't see myself buying a Wii U. So that's kind of a bummer, because I do really want Bayonetta.
I mean, generally, I'm in the same camp as you, where I felt like Nintendo had the strongest showing, just because I guess they surprised me a little bit more than the other 2 systems did. However, overall, if you compare them all, they all did well. Nintendo didn't. I guess they put themselves in a good position, which is, I guess, better than anything you could have really asked for, because they were in such a bad position and they kind of needed to get themselves in a good light. And they did pretty much everything they needed to do, because they showed existing IP that, people are interested in, like Zelda, and then they showed more of games that we already knew about, like Bayonetta, and there's returning franchises like Star Fox, even though it wasn't in the direct. Star Fox is coming next year. And then they showed new IPs in the form of games like Splatoon, which look really good, and also this 3DS game that's coming out. So, they kind of covered their bases, and, Splatoon kind of infers that they're trying to take their online multiplayer a little bit more seriously, which is another step in the right direction. So, I guess time will tell how they will do, but I felt like in terms of hitting the notes, I felt like Nintendo hit most of those notes. And And overall, so it made it so all three conferences were, pretty damn good overall,
Agreed. And, I guess, Patrick, do you have any other final thoughts? I was gonna say real quick, I'd kind of kicked around the idea of doing like a E3 wrap-up episode on Friday, because I'm insane, but I don't know if I can get people together for that, so if we don't do that, do you want to do some final thoughts real quick?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that JD really wrapped it up pretty well, and that, I don't know, as far as winning and losing goes, Nintendo may not have won it because everybody was pretty much doing around the same thing and trying to please the fans, and pretty much did in most respects, but they're definitely back in it at the very least.
Yeah, it's probably the most excited I've been about Nintendo in a while. Again, even though, personally, just because I have a 3DS, I wanted to see more 3DS stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's some really good stuff. I think all three had some interesting things. I wanted to talk more third-party stuff, but honestly, I haven't had time to look at a lot of the third-party stuff, and I think what I've felt is that there hasn't really been a lot to talk about anyway, so we might not come back for a third episode. We might just go ahead and, see you in a couple weeks. If we do, I mean, we'll see what happens, but, if we don't talk to you, this has been an E3, and, thanks for listening, and, for myself, Patrick, and JD, thanks for coming on short notice.
Yep, no problem.
Appreciate having you, and, yeah, I think we'll just keep it pantsless, Internet. Mm-hmm. Goodbye.
Take it easy.
Come on, Reggie, give us Mother 3! How about this instead? Hey, wait a minute. If Nintendo's heroes are backstage, who's watching the bad guys? Not my problem. It's me, Wario! I guess this is my problem.